All right, welcome to another segment of Beyond the Grassy Knoll. We have with us for our fourth of four interviews, Barbara Hartwell Percival. And if I can bring you back to the first time we did the interview, it was because we hadn't been in touch for quite some time. And yet we had an extended conversation back, Barbara remembers it better than I, probably in 02 or late 01, where she kind of gave me the lay of the land, and I was a little stunned. Well, anyway, fast forward to late last year. I took a look at her blog spot. I wanted to see what was going on, and I read some of her posts, quite a few posts, in fact. And I said, I remember way back when I doubted her, but I only because of my naivete, and because I think it's a good thing, and that is, all right, I hear you. Let me see what transpires, and she was right. Much more than she was wrong, if she was ever wrong. And so anyway, what we want to do in this particular interview is unfortunately deal with some of the stuff that we have to, and that is, why are there disinfo people out there? Who are they, and what could possibly be the motivations? And so with that, Barbara, thanks a lot for coming on again. Appreciate the time.
Well, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be on the air, Keith. I don't do a lot of radio anymore, and one of the reasons is because I've been blacklisted by the very disinfo people that you just mentioned.
But okay, we might as well get right into it. And the thing I want to ask you is this: what's happening of late, a bit, I think, different than what we had seen before and after 9/11, was some people, and I can't understand why they just put this stuff out, and it's almost like fantasy. You got to mix in a little truth, I understand, otherwise nobody will come to you. But it can't all be government. I mean, I'm wondering, some of these people are just looking for their 15 minutes of fame, or they like the attention, the hits they get on their website. I just can't figure out why you would go ahead and be a panderer of bad information.
Okay. Well, you have to remember, Keith, that if looking at this from an intelligence perspective, which is my background, we need to remember that most of the disinformation is promulgated in a very organized manner. It's not just something that appears one day, or it's somebody's fantasy. We certainly have people out there that are delusional, there's no doubt about it, but usually what happens is some of the disinformation that is spawned by the government operatives, in other words, to cover up the truth or to mislead people, misdirection on any issue. And what they do is, especially in this COINTELPRO operation, we talked about that a little bit on the other shows, they use amateurs. That's what they do. They don't use professionals. They're like G-man wannabes. That's what I call them.
All right, I can agree. Yeah, I can understand
the G-man wannabes. They don't have any background in intelligence work, no background in journalism, research, nothing. I mean, most of them are just uneducated, and as you said, they like to hear themselves talk. They probably have negatively inflated egos, and when one of these government operatives, COINTELPRO type people, approaches them, they're just thrilled. Now I can get myself known as a whistleblower. I mean, these people are unbelievable, because a whistleblower is, by definition, somebody who has come from the inside of something. It's one thing to be a researcher, an investigator, a journalist. That's a separate thing, and it's just as valid. But in order to be a whistleblower, you have to have been inside, a first-hand witness to something. And these people are out there making all these extravagant claims, and they're just nobodies, is the bottom line.
Well, there's two things afoot here. If you're not an original source of information, which I'm not, I get very few inside things, very few.
But you do your own investigations and research, Keith.
But, to be honest with you, most of what long story short, most of what I've done is looking back at history and what we missed. And that's all there. And so that research is for everyone else to share in. As far as getting inside information, and one of the things that goes on, Barbara, and I know you're aware of this, and that is, well, we can't name the source, it's chatter, it's this, it's intel, and it's like, so, it's okay, and sometimes that's true, but it is so misused just as a cover to throw crap on the wall and hope it sticks.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's one of the tricks that they use, and I find it very foolish and stupid, is they come out with this, oh, anonymous. Well, to me, anonymous equals coward. If you cannot come out with your name and your source of information and say, here's the information, it can be corroborated possibly by multiple sources, or possibly not, but at least give the source or give why you believe or why you know this is true, or give the facts. If you can't do that, it's not credible.
Let me add one other thing, and this is a problem really with the internet, and that is, you know, I've used the handle Vyzygoth, which comes from the days when we were doing pirate radio and didn't want to use our names. So I just keep it. But I'll come on shows. I mean, my name is Keith Hansen, and I don't make any bones about it. I live in Zephyrhills, Hills, Florida.
You don't try to hide your identity.
Yeah, and it's just, so the first thing some jerk comes on and goes, well, if your name is Vyzygoth, and I'm like, dude, check this out. If you have to ask me what my name is, you get what you get, jerk. So if you have to ask me, I can tell you I'm John Smith. Is that okay? So the thing is, okay, you're right. What I didn't like in the last couple of years, and I think this was an orchestrated situation, and it seemed almost template, Barbara. I go to these sites with 9/11 and the bunkers that there was a governmental complicity, and the first line is, as an airline pilot, I know. As a structural engineer, I know. I'm like, I don't know what you are, man. You can say, you can say you're a carnival, barker, and I couldn't tell. Don't tell me this. These idiots, these drooling masses, sit there and they go, oh, he said he was a structural engineer. He must know, or she must know. It's like, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yes, but see, that's the problem with the Internet, Keith. Anybody could be anybody. There's all kinds of poseurs and, posturing people and liars. And unfortunately, when somebody does have the truth, and it doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter whether the person is a journalist, a radio show host, a researcher, investigator, or a former insider like me, a whistleblower. It doesn't matter who the person is that's telling the truth. If you're telling the truth and you have integrity, you will be attacked by this army of wannabes and minions and stooges, government stooges.
Well,
it's just the fact of the matter.
And as you've witnessed, if you've watched TV for whatever, however long, with some of the cable news shows like CNN and MSNBC and all this other stuff, and even if you listen on radio, to the blowtorches that put out Rush Limbaugh and all that, there's never ever a really decent debate about anybody who would come on and say, look, the government's story about 9/11 is baloney. There never is a debate.
No, of course not.
And so it's gotten ridiculous for anybody, and anybody who goes on coast to coast, or Rush Limbaugh, or calls into Glenn Beck, or this idiot Schnitt down here in Florida, there's no way in the world, bro, no matter how you approach them, that they're not going to turn, like a rabid jackal and chew on your leg. It's not going to happen anymore, so forget about going to their venue. It just isn't going to work.
Well, I told you this before, Keith, and I think on